This is Johnny with TigerBomb MMA, and today I'm going over UFC Vegas 92, which is Barboza versus Murphy, giving you my thoughts and predictions on the entire 12-bout card. Interesting. That's what I'll keep it at. Like, we've got Edson Barboza on what I'd like to call his rebirth at 145, and then we've got the undefeated Lerone Murphy. I could have sworn that he had lost a fight, but turns out it was just a draw, I suppose, against that bum. I forgot his name, but he couldn't even win in his Muslim country. But it's a decent card, but I'm not looking the utmost forward to betting it. I already have a stupid parlay that's not going to cash because that'll suffice my need to gamble. But if it cashes, great. If not, then it is what it is, and I'll tell you what it is afterwards. It's pretty obvious what it's going to be. I didn't even take my own advice in not betting a specific guy that I said not to bet. Just is what it is. It's a nice little recovery card since the last card, the one that I'm going to be talking about right here, the Lewis card. And I'll give you my thoughts on that because there was some interesting stuff with the Lewis card. But yeah, the first fight of that night was Veronica Hardy defeats J.J. Aldridge. First two fights I predicted pretty beautifully, and then shit went really awry. But Veronica Hardy defeats JJ by, I thought it was going to be a split decision, but unanimous decision, 29-28. The first two rounds were Hardy's apparently, and the second round, which was funny, is that JJ Aldridge, she did have a game plan of kind of holding her up against the cage, which killed time, but she didn't do anything with it. Veronica, being the much quicker girl, funny enough, not even the better hands, just quicker to the punch. JJ, to me, had a better established jab, but she didn't do much in that second round. I thought Hardy edged out the first, and then come the last few seconds of the second round, I think it was a minute left, Veronica let her hands go, and she actually landed punches, so thus, the one who actually did damage in any sort of the way wins that fight. I really thought they were going to give it to JJ, at least a split, but it is what it is. The judging was a little funky. Charles Johnson defeats Jake Hadley, another spot-on prediction, and I'll get to the one that I got really wrong. But Charles Johnson, just better wrestler. Jake Hadley was not the better fighter here. He edged out at least one round, which was nice. Jake did push the pace, I think, in the third round. I didn't go back and look who gave who what rounds because I did think Charles did enough to either win all three or at least win two. And I did have him on two separate bets. I did track one, which was 1 unit to win about, plus 135 on Charles to win, which I thought was no shit. Then I took him before the fight started, half a unit to, frankly, what I wanted to do was kind of invest that money to then win and then reinvest on the Billy Goff fight. So that cashed for, I think, plus 110, which was great. That was not tracked because I lost it immediately. Because the next fight, Trey Waters versus Billy Goff, I picked Goff. I thought when he went forward, he would knock out Trey Waters. Props to Trey. He survived everything of the onslaught that Billy threw at him because Billy's an absolute fucking dog. And that's what I wanted. I don't even feel bad about him losing the fight because I don't think there was a real loser in that fight. I think both guys fought their hearts out. Trey Waters, I did give it to him. All right, I gave it to him 29-28. Because I'm an honest guy and I'm very particular when it comes to judging fights. I try to be as blunt and honest, even though it bites me in the ass. But I could see that Billy could have won potentially 2 rounds on one of the judges' scorecards. Maybe not give him the fight, but maybe at least give him better than losing 3 rounds to 0, apparently, to Trey Waters. Those scorecards were not great. I get it. When you are a established boxing judge in MMA, you're going to love the counter striking, and I'll give it to that. I think Trey did land the better overall shots in the first round, and second and third were a little trickier, but I think he did land the cleaner shots, which does favor the boxer in that spot, because the judges will love that. Billy kind of battered the body all over, landed probably the more strikes than Trey. He had better moments in certain spots. I still would have given it to Trey, but I still felt like there was a bit of a missing portion to why you won't give it to Billy. You know what I mean? It was just kind of the first indicator that these judges were going to be doing weird shit, which then followed up with Tabitha Ricci beating Tisha Pennington, which I thought was fucking bullshit. I thought Tisha clearly won round number 1. Also round number 2, where Tabitha tried desperately to get her to the ground, which she could not against the cage. Ate up minutes, did nothing with it. Tisha disengages with like 40 seconds left and actually lands punches, and the judges are like, oh, no. The girl with the fat ass wins that one. I still believe, and I think this justifies my opinion on Tabitha. Like, I don't want to shit on her, but when I hear people talking about her like the second coming of Paulo Costa, which I've been suspecting she might be a female clone of Paulo Costa, tall on the chin, that she is very bare minimum, and she gets away with like a lot of cheap Weasley things, and I think this proved it, right? Like, Tisha, to me, easily won, had the better moments, landed the better strikes. The third round, I would give it to Ricci because she at least did some damage in that clinch. But overall, Pennington won that fight, and I felt really dirty about that, but it is what it is. Next bout, Heibovik defeats McKinney. Now, there's a lot of like narratives about Terrence McKinney that I am going to squash right now. I'm going to start a new narrative. Terrence McKinney is the GOAT at lightweight for the very reason that you know what he's going to give you, and he doesn't try to be anything other than his authentic self, which is a marauder. He will kill or be killed, and the dude has been cashing the unders since 2020, I believe. Respect the king that is Terrence McKinney. I did, of course, pick against him, but like I need to establish that McKinney should not go anywhere. I want him to headline his own pay-per-view card at one point versus another guy. I would pay good money to see this fight, just for scientific purposes. But Heibovik, before I start sucking off on McKinney, who unfortunately got knocked out with a 30-some second head kick, I really wanted Heibovik to survive the first round. But McKinney, again, because he's the king that he is, said, I'm not wrestling this guy. I'm coming after him, which, he paid for it. But I really wanted to see if Esteban would get taken down, get some time eaten away. And then the second round, bam, live bet the motherfucker, but did not get a chance to because, again, Terrence McKinney, king among men. But that one sucked. I don't like seeing Terrence getting knocked out that way, but I do. Next bout, I got really, really wrong. Chase Hooper utterly does to Vyacheslav what I thought Vyacheslav was going to do to Chase, but on the feet. I don't know what to say about that. Like, Borshev really let me down here because he, I expected him to bum rush Hooper, not give him respect, just beat his ass. He had at least one good flurry in the pocket, which he needed to be there, but then he gave the distance, and then he let Chase Hooper drop him with a goofy overhand left, and then that was the end. I'll talk about the finish in a bit, but he got utterly destroyed, which is like, dude, you had one job, which is do not hit the ground. I'm positive that Vyacheslav would have stuffed takedowns if he had not gotten rocked. But he got rocked. What the fuck, dude? And then Chase Hooper just beat his ass. Like, Chase Hooper on the ground he's a mauler. So I've decided to re-virginize myself to hopefully try to harness the essence that is Chase Hooper. So I'm assuming that's like the key to it. Maybe I might perm my hair. We'll see what happens. But that was an absolute mauling. And then with the choke, and again, I'm going to be as fair as possible. I accept that Vyacheslav got his ass beat. I would have accepted that he got the TKO loss. I do think that he survived very well. He's very good at doing so. When the ref says move, he fucking moves. What more do you want? You know what I'm saying? Like, if it was the opposite and you had Vyacheslav and you wanted him to survive, I think he did everything in his being to survive. And then he got caught in the choke. I'm torn with that because he had taken a ton of damage, and I do believe that choke wasn't fully sunken in, and he was trying to like gauge to see where he can push off of. That's like reality. But after taking that ass whooping and you do a tap, I cannot blame Keith Peterson, Mr. Sigowitz. It is what it is, though. Vyacheslav really let me down. Next bout, though, I had Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Robles de Spain, and I, of course, picked Acosta. I was adamant that he was the better everything, better wrestler, better boxer, better chin on paper. Turns out Despain has a pretty solid chin, and we found out the truth is that he was as I stated, a very unproven Taekwondo specialist with nothing else other than being 5-0 by beating absolute fucking bums. And I'm not here to gloat because I did have some comments in the comments section, whatever, this guy's going to kick his ass, put all your money on to Spain. And I'm just like, whatever. But I'm not a guy that's going to like rub it in people's faces. So with like respect and humility and being a man of my word and honor, I just want to say to those who just did not believe in Acosta, suck my but yeah, moving on, it was Acosta that just became the D1 wrestler. He took him down. I don't want to say easily because, you saw what you needed to see from Despain for the future. You don't take him at like minus 190. I get it. The TKO prop might have been there, but again, like there's too many odd narratives about like this guy got knocked out in boxing. I'm like, who gives a shit about boxing? That's different. Like, you can't take a dude down in boxing. And I did take Acosta by TKO, or actually inside the distance, because I'm like, he might go for a sub, which he did. He tried that Americana. He got on top. He started dropping some good bombs on him, but it never materialized. But when I saw the first takedown, I did see that he was, I think, plus 100 or so. So I did take him live. So I did recoup my loss from the inside the distance. So it was great. It was awesome. But yeah, Despain, I see promise in him now. I think learning lesson was here. They're going to give him some bums, and then he's going to knock him the fuck out. But Acosta, I think he was just too much of a test. He had those abs, a little bit of abs. I'm like, those are wrestler's abs. So I'm like, he's prepared to wrestle. Woodson defeats Caceres. Nothing to really say there. It is what it is. Like, it was just kind of like a back and forth. Who landed first? I thought Woodson looked good early, but slowed down. Caceres kind of picked up the pace. He wasn't going to ever lose a decision in St. Louis. Diego Ferreira defeats Mateus Rebecki. Rebecki, it was a good learning lesson for him. He loses for the first time in the UFC against a veteran. My narrative of picking against the 40-year-old lightweights, it backfired mainly because he was 39. So it wasn't truly the capping model that failed. It was I that failed by picking against a 39-year-old lightweight when he wasn't quite 40. Rebecki's going to come back. I think he needs to learn to manage the gas tank. He goes hard forward immediately. He throws everything really hard. And he did have a reach disadvantage, so I can't really like blame him for trying to knock the dude's head out because it worked. The only downside is that Ferreira really, really worked on his get-ups and his gas tank and also his sweeps from the bottom. I know he's a good jiu-jitsu guy, but to really airplane Rebecki off of his feet and like kick off of him, I was like, damn, that was very impressive. And then he TKO'd him late. It was a very, very fun fight, very impressive. And Rebecki, he'll be back. He looked like Malcolm in the Middle when he rubbed the poison oak on his eyes. So I thought that was kind of a nice little kick. Olberg, I had Olberg in a parlay with another person. And here's the shit about this fight against Alonzo Menefield. I utterly knew certain things about Menefield that I've always known, right? But because he's had success, it does mess with your head. It messes with all of our heads because, he's having success at plus 200 each and every time, and it's hard not to take a shot on him at plus 200 against a guy who is quote-unquote less skilled or doesn't have as good of wins on his record than other people that he's beaten in Menefield. But Menefield has cost me a lot in the past, and I feel like I've gauged him well. Like, he's not the best striker. He hits hard, and given a guy who doesn't have good technical skills, good jabs, good footwork, he's going to really run through them. And on top of that, if they do have those skills, if he is faster than him, he's going to be able to land that nasty counter. In this case, Alonzo Menefield proved to me that I was right about him, that he is fucking retard. He bum rushes, 12 seconds later he's on the ground, knocked out by Carlos Holberg. It was like, bro, you had some semblance of a chance here, yet you blew it because I don't know what the hell that was. Like, I got so angry, mad, and happy at the same time seeing that, because I was angry that like everything that I thought about Menefield was accurate. And I was obviously like mad that like the fight ended really quickly, so I didn't know what to do with all this pent up energy. And I was happy because I just cashed one leg of my unit or one leg of my parlay. So I was like spouting off a bunch of crazy shit on the Discord. I'm like, motherfucking Alonzo Menifield's hanging out with Tom Cruise in the outskirts of San Francisco in the woods, praying to a owl god Moloch because of Pat Barry and his, you know what, philia. I was fucking pissed. I was like, fuck Alonzo Menifield. But yeah, Carlos Ulberg cashed my one leg of my 2-leg parlay. And we didn't learn much about Ulberg other than, he's got nasty power. And what we learned about Menifield is that he's fucking stupid. So Joaquin Buckley defeats Nurulstan Rozaboev. I did have Rozaboev, I think, third of a unit or something like that, like 0.3 of a unit to inside the distance Buckley. Reason being, I wanted Buckley to duck under and Rozaboev to land knees, which he did, but Buckley ate it well, took him down. And now we fully know, like, Rozaboev at welterweight, like, I feel like everyone kind of knew, but that height disparity, I said, fuck it, I'll take a chance. Like, I think he can knock him out. But Rozaboev looked bum-tacular, which is what the craziest thing is. Like, this is what I saw in the regionals. I saw this in the regionals where he sucks at welterweight, where he gets taken down, and a good enough fighter can just maintain top control and beat his ass. And Buckley did so, which is props to him. And then he called out Conor McGregor, which I thought was fucking stupid. But yeah, Rozaboev at 185. I think he's going to be a different beast at 185. Like, continuously looking at him at that weight, just more. I'm surprised he made 170 no problem. It's still baffling to me. But Rozaboev, whatever. Then final fight, final leg of my parlay, which was Derek Lewis knocking out Nascimento. Not much to say there, man. Like, he gave me a scare because he wasn't actively going for the knockout immediately. Like, he was trying to prove a point. Like, don't prove points, Derek Lewis. Knock this man out. Props to Nascimento for surviving, though, because he did eat some good shots, and it was more so the shots that Derek Lewis was throwing were meant to be knockout shots, but they were more telegraphed. And then he did clinch up, which was like Nascimento to a T. Perfect for him. Props to Lewis for being able to survive in that position. I feel as if when you're fighting Derek Lewis and you are a good grappler, but you're a heavyweight, like a legitimate, like kind of roly-poly heavyweight, like Nascimento, it is easier for him to kind of buck you off than it is for like a leaner, more buff guy, like for example in what the fuck is his name? The God King. So yeah, with Derek Lewis, he kept trying to clinch up with him. His coaches were like, don't clinch, just knock the dude out. Come the third round is when he actually listened, and he decided, yeah, I'm going to knock him out. So he set up his punches with I believe it was a overhand left to an overhand right or some shit like that. Maybe like a loopy little jab to overhand right. Ended up knocking him out, cashing me. So it was the first in a while that I actually cashed and was profitable in an event. Previous few events, like either got completely destroyed, or I just didn't make enough and maybe just made a little bit less. It's just good to be back on the winning side, so I was happy about that. But yeah, let's get into the actual fight here, which would be the Barboza versus Murphy. And I'm doing a new format here, so hopefully all this works. First fight of the night, Emily Ducote versus Vanessa Demopoulos. Demopoulos plus 220. Come back on Ducote is minus 275. It's a female fight. Not much to say about it. Emily Ducote, she is like, I think she was like minus 300. So there is some money coming in on Demopoulos. Demopoulos fighting out of Fight Ready. The shit was that? Demopoulos fighting out of Fight Ready. I think she has definitely gotten better over the years. She has some good power in her punches. She's very tough. Her jiu-jitsu game off the back is very good. And she's going to be fighting in Vegas in the Apex. So with these judges being in Vegas and her past career kind of leading itself to be kind of Vegas-oriented, I feel as if that Demopoulos is a very good way to weasel out decisions, mainly because she hypnotizes these judges with her world-famous ping pong trick on a Tuesday night outside the strip, if you know what I'm saying. So with Demopoulos being 220, I understand if people take her, but I do think that her wrestling it still needs a little bit of work, because with Ducote, I feel she's the more well-rounded girl for the first time in her like MMA, UFC stint here, because she fought Angela Hill, she fought Godinez, and then Ashley Yoder. She was just better than her, but there was a bit of a height and reach disparity there. Here, they're going to be the same size. I think Ducote, nice leg kicks. She does have the jiu-jitsu to back up her, she's Gordinha here. So she has a solid jiu-jitsu game, not maybe as good of a submission artist as Demopoulos, because she's very good at sneaking out these crusty little decision wins. But I have to go with Ducote to win this one by decision. I think they're both tough. I think Demopoulos, more so, she's taken a nasty ass whooping in the past. But again, she is very capable of edging out a decision. I do have Ducote on a stupid parlay just because I was at the casino. I'm like, fuck it, I got to put somebody on here, so I'll put Ducote on there. Very stupid of me, but it is what it is. Next bout, we've got Heili versus Clayton Rodrigues, and we have the odds currently in favor of Rodrigues, minus 185. Comeback on Heili. He is plus 150. I went back and forth on this one because, it's at 135. Rodrigues is getting 10 extra pounds of weight, and he could look like a completely different fighter. If this was, say, for example, weight for weight, the same guy at 125 of Clayton Rodrigues, then I think Heili is super duper live to beat his ass. He has a lot of pressure. He has a wrestling background, training at a fight ready. He's not going to be outgunned here in the sense of like height and reach. Clayton does have a half-inch reach on him, but I think the better overall fighter is Rodrigues up until he fatigues or he gets tired or he just mentally breaks. But I'm curious to see what Rodrigues looks like with those 10 extra pounds and a few more water weight in his head. So at minus 185, I don't feel comfortable betting him, but I'm comfortable picking him to win this one by a decision. I think if he maintains distance, he uses his kicks, maybe even uses a bit of jiu-jitsu on Heili, maybe not enough to like threaten for submissions, but just more so control time, take the back. He can definitely edge this out. He can also possibly even knock him out. I know he has pop in his punches, but he's 8-3. Heili is a lot more experienced. He's fought in way better competition. It's just that dynamic ability. I don't know what the word I'm trying to say. Dynamic ability, whatever. The athleticism, I'll go with that, of Rodrigues, I think is going to take him far here if he doesn't gas out. So it's a very good live betting situation for Heili if you're interested in him, because I think he can take an ass whooping. The only issue is that the way to beat him is out there. You kick him from far, kick him to the body, kick him to the legs, just avoid him at all costs. He does have power in his punches. I think he is a very good underdog for this week. But again, that's without knowing how good Clayton's going to look at 135. So when I saw him in the Contender Series, I was very impressed by this guy. I was like, wow, he looks UFC ready, but he came into the UFC and he just never really performed. We saw him kind of drop the ball against like CJ Vergara, for example, where he was able to just do enough to sway the judges in his favor. And I feel like Alatain can do the same here, but will Clayton just have more energy and just be a little bit more dynamic, more explosive, more powerful? And that's what I'm guessing is going to happen. So I'm going to go with Rodrigues by decision, but this one is 1,000% dogger pass. But I rather see that first round, because in that first round, I think Clayton's going to be his best version of himself. And if he doesn't finish Heili, that's when I'll probably hammer the line if he's like plus 250 or so. So I'll do that. But again, not currently interested in this particular matchup. Next bet, we've got, Pinhiero Rodrigues versus, what the hell's her name? Ariane Carnelossi. Carnelossi is coming back after a bit of a layoff. Like, she hasn't fought in a while. Where did she go? Let's see. When was the last time that she fought? I know what was funny is that she made Lupita Godinez look like an absolute world beater, and that was back in 2022. So she's been away for a bit, and she's not changed. She's still jacked as fuck, big arms. What's funny about Carnelossi, like she's almost like she's almost beautiful, almost just like there's something little. You just gotta like adjust certain things, like maybe the eyebrow, like the Cro-Magnon eyebrow. But those arms are like absolutely deadly, and I always worry about like what it would be like to get a little from her, a little hand. And I got a prop here. It's like I'm going out with Ariane Carnelossi, and we're in the back of my Buick or whatever. I don't have a Buick, but in this case I have a Buick. And then she goes and reaches down, and all you hear is she rips my cock off like Velcro. But she's a solid prospect. I do think that even now, she's 31 years old. She may be a little bit undersized, but right now she's fighting a girl roughly her size. She's 5'2", 61.5-inch reach. Had one of my favorite fights out of the Jacksonville card. Literally the first fight of the night after the pandemic with a live crowd. Her and Na Liang went at it and like fucking got me amped and ready for that card, which was headlined by Usman and Masvidal. So Carnelossi, good cardio, obviously hits hard. She's a solid overall girl, just more physical than Pinhiero Rodrigues. Rodrigues, she's minus 175, and I think she is as. I don't think she's ever going to really improve as much as we need her to improve to fight the upper echelon of the division, where I think Carnelossi here is live. Pinhiero is very dependent on getting takedowns. I think she can win on the feet, but will Carnelossi just continuously go after her for 3 rounds and fatigue her with the pressure? Because Carnelossi will go after you like immediately, like a little mini Terminator. So I like Carnelossi in the spot, but it's been, almost 3 years since she's fought, so I don't know. I'm not interested in betting either of these girls, but if I had to, I'm definitely going to go dog or pass. So I will go with Carnelossi by a decision. I think that if she maintains a good jab and like tries to keep distance, she can definitely outpoint her. I think Pinhiero is capable of winning this fight with some control time on top as well. But if Carnelossi has definitely like improved since her last performance against Lupe Godinez, where she uses her physicality, she's a little bit more patient, still has that aggression and that forward pressure with that cardio, she can definitely win here and really open people's eyes to Carnelossi being like, oh, she's definitely improved. As for Pinhiero, like, how much more can she improve? Can she improve her cardio? Can she improve her striking? Her takedown game for sure can improve as well, which if you look at like, oh yeah, Pinhiero just take her down because Lupe Godinez took her down multiple times. That to me was the best version of Godinez we might ever see, ever. So it's hard to gauge that greatest performance ever and try to like replicate it. So for those reasons, I like Carnelossi in this spot. Dog or pass. So moving on, we've got here Magomedov versus Warlley Alves. Abus is minus 250. Comeback on Alves is 205, plus 205. So I'm going with Magomedov, first round knockout. And I think this is a very dangerous spot. Of course, he's going to be on my stupid parlay. And I advise you do not do what I'm doing. This is literally, I played baseball yesterday. I won a little bit extra money and I wanted to blow it somewhere. So I took a stupid 4-leg parlay and Abus is on there. And minus 250, I do think he knocks him out because I think Warlley at 185, I think it's just definitely he's going to feel better, but I think he's going to get hurt at 205. We saw him get dropped by a jab from Ikram Aliskerov. Granted, Ikram's jab is beautiful. It's very powerful. And then he just keeps continuously getting hurt and knocked out, where I think that if Abus, who is a very fast starter early, he has dynamicism. He's very dynamic with the 6-inch reach advantage and 3 inches in height. I think he's going to look great. I think if he's able to put an ass whooping early on Sean Strickland, he's going to be able to knock out Warlley Alves, right? And Warlley, he's a great fighter. You know, he beat Colby Covington back in the day, gave him his first loss with the submission. He can definitely pull it out of his ass by knocking dudes out because he's still a very good Muay Thai practitioner. And if he is to win this fight, it is to extend the fight and then just attack the body of Abus, because I have seen Abus mentally crumble on more than one occasion, all right, in both of his last fights. And granted, that is against the former champion and soon-to-be future champion and king, Caio Borralho, who apparently, this is when I knew, I'm like, Caio is going to be GOAT. He's going to fucking surpass everybody. He's going to surpass GSP. He's going to surpass Anderson Silva, is when he said specifically, like, I love Naruto, and I watch it with the subtitles. And I'm like, oh, he knows what's up. He's going to be champ. So I can't fault Abus for getting crumbled by those two. There's a chance here that Alves will crumble him if he attacks the body, and I think that is the sweet spot for Abus for him to crumble, because when he gets tired, he fatigues, you hit him to the body, and he wants out. The same kind of thing happened with Caio, where Caio hit him with an elbow in the 3rd round, and you saw him just be like mentally saying like, time out. So it's a very dangerous spot at minus 250, but I think he goes back to his Dustin Stoltzfus ways, and I feel like the UFC is like rewarding him for saying like, hey, you took some bad L's, but your last name is Nurmagomedov. Let's get this Alves out of the way. So I'll go with Alves or Nurmagomedov to knock him out in the first round. But yeah, after that first round, it's all Warley. I think Warley can take over. Next bout, we've got a terrible fight here. Tamaris Vidal versus Melissa Gatto. Meow meow, minus 410 for Gatto. Come back on Valdez or Vidal. That's how much I don't care. I don't even know her name. Plus 300. Vidal, she can definitely beat lower level ranked competition, not people who are as skilled as Gatto. Can she beat Gatto? Yes. If Gatto throws a kick and breaks her toe, if Gatto gets violently ill but decides she wants to fight anyways, she can get outpointed. There's multiple ways that Gatto can win because this is MMA. A lot of shit goes into it, and it's not like a guaranteed spot. But minus 410 for Gatto is like a non-playable line where I think she is better on the feet. She's longer by an inch, and she's got the better jiu-jitsu. She's got the better grappling. And Vidal, she was easily taken down by whatever Montserrat Rendon, and that was based off of just Tamaris Vidal throwing kicks that she was able to catch, and literally just she fell over. It's like it's rough, but she has some good power in her punches. But if Gatto is clever and she's smart, she engages in the clinch after like kind of bullying the body of Vidal a bit. And this is at bantamweight. I'll go with Gatto here for a second round submission. I think that Vidal finds her way on the canvas somehow, whether she gets hit, whether she falls over, she stumbles, who the hell knows. But I would not advise at Gatto at minus 410. She is not on my parlay because I'm stupid, but I'm not that stupid. Moving on, we have got here a very interesting fight here. We've got Omar Sy versus Antonio Tricoli, and two somewhat prospects. And I say somewhat because Tricoli's being mentioned in the same breath. Omar Sy, I think he is a very interesting prospect. He's fighting out of Bulgarian top team, out of France. He's fought in KSW. He's fought some competition, I'll say that. Same can be said about Tricoli, but in a much lesser sense. He's fought people. That's it. And you look at his record, man, he is 12-3. That looks great, and he's got a lot of finishes. But if you go back and just watch the last few fights that he's had, because he came into the UFC via the Contender Series and he popped hot because he got a neck crank, a nasty little neck crank, because he's more of a submission specialist, brown belt. For Tricoli, C is a blue belt, but he's a very talented blue belt based on what I see, what he does. Loves the ground and pound, loves to like beat his dudes up on the ground. And my narrative on this one, and I don't want to spend a lot of time because there's very many questions for both, but the narrative is I think Omar Sy is highly athletic, highly talented, and he has a high ceiling, but he's undefeated at 9-0, and I feel as if he does a lot of things that Petrino does, where he kind of leaves himself a little exposed sometimes, where he can bum rush people with his athleticism and get away with it. But I think he's a little bit more technical than Petrino, so I don't feel horrible about picking him to win, which I will. Tricoli, I think he's just better when it comes to like the overall game of MMA, but he used to be a welterweight and he moved up. He's 6'5". They're both 6'5", but I feel as if Antonio, despite I know he's been training with guys his same size in the gym, how could you not? The issue is that in live competition, I don't think he's fought anyone close to his size, because I look at the guys he's fought in the past. The guy he beat to get back in the UFC was this fat, light heavyweight, basically a fat, like, welterweight. It was rough. He looked like a fucking Edgar with a haircut. It was just, dude. So I do think that although Tricoli has a lot of danger and a lot of upside in the submission, because he is a very good submission artist, where if like C goes in for a takedown and he gets stuffed and he gets caught in a guillotine or a whatever, or anaconda or a darce, he can definitely finish it. But because Omar Sy is such a big dude, matching him physicality-wise, size-wise, I think that Omar, with his ability to get fights to the ground, and maybe Tricoli being like, oh yeah, let's play, let's see who's got better jiu-jitsu, Omar has nasty ground and pound. That is one good thing you can say about the guy. He has vicious ground and pound, and he will pound you out until you give up your neck and takes the neck in the submission. So I do like C here. I think he will get the finish in the second round. Maybe it could even go to a decision. I just see C winning this one by being just the bigger guy. And I say the bigger guy despite their being the same size, just the bigger guy by fighting at least competition his size. And again, not to say Tricoli hasn't fought anyone his size in the past. I just don't think he's fought anyone his size in true authentic self of, like, for example, Omar C. They're fucking giants. So I do think that C will see his way to a victory. Moving on here, we've got Tom Nolan versus Victor Martinez. Let's move this up a little. And Tom Nolan minus 450. Comeback on Victor is plus 340. Tom Nolan, he cucked real bad his last time. I picked him to win the last time against, what the hell's his name? Carlos? No, I'll just check. It's Nicholas Mota. I didn't bet him at that time because you could just sense that the young kid never felt defeat before, never been knocked out. He's capable of making a mistake. And against Mota, if you give him that option where you crash into him, which he ultimately did, he was going to get hurt. And Tom, I think he learned a valuable lesson. I'm going to pick Tom, and I'll go on to explain why. He learned that lesson because he's such a long fighter. He's got, 73-inch reach. He's 6'3" at lightweight. He's a massive guy. He's very talented. It's just that mentality of, like, I'm going to steamroll everybody, bit him in the ass. And with Mota, he did not respect the distance. He needs to learn, and I think he will learn, and he has learned, to keep the fight at his range. And when it's at his range, he is incredible. But when he crashes into dudes, which is that he's going to have to do the same thing here against Victor Martinez to lose, it is really a 50-50 matchup, hence him not being worthy of being like minus 400 or minus 450. In this case, I think knowing that he just got his ass beat bad his last fight, he won't make those same mistakes. He will keep it at his range. And this is kind of like a, hey, kid, sorry about the loss. We're going to give you somebody semi-harmless, and let's see if you can really implement in a real-world situation these new gifts and skills that you've developed in the gym. And Victor Martinez, not to shit on him, but I do think he can probably make 145 lightweight. He's just going to get outshadowed and just, he's not big enough for these guys. He got knocked out by and utterly dominated in the clinch by Jordan Levitt. And dude, when you're getting knocked out by Jordan Levitt, Tom Nolan can do way worse to you. And I think Victor's a solid guy. I think he's a solid fighter, more of like a club fighter. He's 13-5. There's nothing ultimately special about him. Like, he's good everywhere, but not great anywhere. Decent enough boxing, decent enough power. Like, I do think that if he catches Tom Nolan like absolutely flush, maybe not knocks him out or knocks him down, but like wobbles him a little bit. So Tom has to be very careful. But again, I do have him on this stupid parlay, and I think he gets it done in the first round. Next bout, we've got Angela Hill versus Luana Pinhiero. I am not talking about this fight. I'm taking Angela Hill by decision. Pinhiero, she is plus 130, minus 160 for Angela Hill. Very briefly, Pinhiero, she needs to, at this point, prove to me that what I believe about her isn't true, that she gasses out. Clearly, she did in her last fight, and she has output issues. She doesn't throw a whole ton of output. I think that a girl like Angela Hill, highly skilled at this point, at 39 years old, lots of experience. She's lost a ton. She's won slightly more. Push the pace on her, get her tired, fatigue her, clinch her up, knead her the body, exhaust her, just more output, which Angela Hill will have, and she wins this fight by decision, possibly even a finish late. But if Pinhiero has worked on her just output and her gas management and her ability to actually do shit, because she does have a good judo background, I think she is a solid prospect, but I don't think she's fully developed a very intelligent UFC fighting style quite yet. I think when you're running through shitty competition where you can just do whatever you want to them, yeah, you're going to look great. But when you're fighting higher level girls with a ton of experience and you're not throwing enough output and you're getting by on the skin of your teeth by maybe dropping someone or just landing a big punch, that's not always going to work for you. And I think Angela Hill is a perfect fighter to really counteract that. But did Pinhiero make any adjustments? We'll see. I am not looking forward to it, but I'll go with Angela Hill by decision. Next bout, we've got Adrian Yanez versus Vinicius Salvador. And minus 350 for Yanez. Comeback on Salvador is plus 275. So Salvador is up at bantamweight now. He's going to be fighting Adrian Yanez. And what's interesting is that, both these guys are coming off of losses. I think Yanez is just a more technical boxer. I think he wins this fight in multiple different fashions. I think he is going to be on that parlay. He's the third leg of that stupid parlay, but he's capable of getting knocked out here. I think when it comes to guys that have good enough boxing, they can catch them. Long guys like Rob Font. Like my stupid strategy was always Puerto Rican boxing better than Mexican boxing, and it proved to be correct. Here, I don't think Brazilian boxing is better than Mexican boxing. I think Vinicius he's got good hands. He keeps his hands low a bit too much, and I just think that Yanez is just crisper with the combinations. He just has to be a little bit careful here not to get hurt, not to get rocked. I don't think his chin's going to really suffer here against Vinicius, who I don't think he's going to have a whole ton of pop in his punches unless Salvador comes out here and just disregards anything about Yanez and just starts unloading on him. I can see Yanez going down. I just don't see Vinicius having a whole ton of success against Yanez if Yanez comes in here correctly. If Yanez shows up and he is just shell-shocked from his last two fights, then of course Vinicius can win this fight. He can definitely do so. But if Yanez really wants this win, I think he can get the win. I think if he wants to come out here and knock him out, he just has to be careful, select his shots, and he can do so. Or if he wants to guarantee himself a win bonus, he can come out here and try to wrestle with him. He's not known to do so, but neither was Waldo Acosta. So I will go with Yanez to win this one by I think, second-round knockout, work to the body, and then he will crumble him to the body. The head will be exposed either way, but I love the body work from Yanez. We get to see Mr. Knockout back again. Next bout, we've got, this one's interesting, Ramiz Brahimaj versus Themba Gorimbo. Minus 205 for Gorimbo. I think that's actually dropped, where it's a little closer, because I think money's coming in on Brahimaj, and I get that. He's currently listed here plus 170. 33 versus 31 for Brahimaj. The big reach advantage, 4 inches going to Gorimbo. And I like Gorimbo in this spot. And before I tell you the method, with Gorimbo, I like him in this spot if he continues to fight as like a guy who is ever improving. If he continues to fight like his old self, like consistently just wanting to get it to the ground, he's going to lose this fight, because Gorimbo, he is relentless with the takedowns. He's got decent enough jiu-jitsu. It's just that he is super capable of pulling a massive stunt on the ground against Brahimaj, who he desperately needs us to the ground. I think Brahimaj is really good at jiu-jitsu's black belt, very solid there. Striking-wise, not great, but he's serviceable. It's just that if he cannot get Themba to the ground, it's really up to Themba to put himself in that danger. If Themba comes out here wanting to strike, he just got a nasty knockout over Pete Rodrigues, which is hilarious. He can definitely beat the shit out of Brahimaj. He's been away via an undisclosed injury for a handful of years. He's coming back and he's fighting a new guy in the division who there's a clear path to victory for him by taking him down, taking his back. I think Themba might have some good moments, even surviving or even reversing Brahimaj, but eventually I do think that his control time and ability to control guys on the ground isn't very great. And he can be making leaps and bounds. He's got The Rock behind him. I heard something about The Rock kicked him out of the house. I have no idea, but he's going to do it for The Rock. And I think he's going to knock out Brahimaj. He's going to have to keep it on the feet, use your reach advantage. And his striking's not even that terrible. Like when he was fighting with Pete, he looked pretty fluent on the feet. Like, he has power. He has 2 knockdowns in his last 2 fights. Obviously knocked out Pete Rodrigues, and then he dropped Sato. And the issue is that he just followed him to the ground and tried to grapple with him when Sato was able to create some issues for him on the ground, which was nuts. So if he comes out here with the mentality of I'm a striker this time because Brahimaj's going to try to submit me, I think he can get it done. But yeah, Brahimaj, I understand the love for him, but I do think he's a little chinny. He's been away for a while. I have no idea what his injury was. I do think he's talented, but I've seen this guy get dropped just a little too many times. I think he can actually drop down to 155, which he would do a lot better at 155. Demba, I think he's just going to be too big for him. I think if he maintains a good distance, he can rock him and finish him. So I'm going to go by knockout. Not to say that I'm like confident in the knockout, because like with Demba, he can definitely knock you down, and then he tries to like, oh shit, let me grapple with him. That's what I'm most worried about. So if you've got Brahimaj, I get that. But Demba, for me, I think he can knock him out. Next bout, we've got one of the more difficult matchups in my eyes. We've got Chaos Williams versus Carlston Harris, minus 125 for the Oxfighter Williams. Come back on Harris is plus 105. I've gone back and forth. Like, there's a lot of danger in this spot here because I think Carlston Harris can kind of match the striking with Chaos, because Chaos, he's a little predictable with his like blitzes and his like non-technical overhands and shit. Carlston has a really pull back right hand. He likes to counter with that. He does have on paper the better everything other than the striking and the knockout power. He doesn't have a better chin than Chaos. He has a great chin. It's like I can see Carlston just beating William to the punch each and every time, staying on the outside. And what's funny is that they're both listed as 6 feet, but I don't think that's correct, because when I see Impa Kasanganay fighting Carlston Harris, Impa Kasanganay, who has fought at 205, PFL 205 champ, and at 185, he towers over him. And I don't think that Chaos is any bigger than Impa. So I think there's going to be a huge height disparity, possibly even a reach disparity. So I want to see them face off. But when it comes to Harris, I think that he's getting up there in age. He's 36. Not to say that that's too terrible at 170. Just the ability that Chaos has to put out the lights is just, it's going to be too much, I think, for me. And I think he can just throw more, be more active, and maybe even eventually hurt Harris. I think Williams has a 80% takedown defense, which is kind of surprising. And if he keeps it on the feet, I think he can unload on Harris at certain points, maybe even finish him. But I like Harris a lot. I think on paper he's a better fighter, but this paper ain't fighting. So I'm going to go with Williams. I'm not confident in it. I'm just a straight pick. I'm going to go Williams by a knockout in the... I'm going to go first round just to see, because I often pick decisions because like when they're close. In this one, I do think there's a finish that could happen, and I think the quicker upside will be Chaos in the first round. Next bout, and this is the main event of the evening. I've got opinions on this one. Edson Barboza versus Lerone Murphy. Plus 125 for Barboza, comeback on Murphy, minus 150. So, 38 years old, Barboza, featherweight, having that resurgence. And I think Murphy's in his prime right now at 32 years old. And he's making leaps and bounds in his development, because with his striking, it's definitely good boxing, good movement, good cardio. But Barboza is just hands down the better striker here, the absolute better striker. And if you give him the opportunity to strike for 5 rounds, he will do so without gassing. He won't get tired. So what is the game plan for Lerone Murphy? We know what Barboza's game plan is. Knock this dude out, find an opening, throw a spin, destroy the body of Murphy. And Murphy is a little hittable. He's been hit, cleanly a few times. I think he even dropped to a knee against Josh Kulabau in his last fight. But what I noticed about that fight, and what would be the most intelligent planning for Murphy, is to implement the styles of the people who've recently fought against Barboza. We've got the utter disappointment that is Sodiq Yusuff, and also Billy Q. Billy Q bum rushed him and just tried to exhaust him, which I think he was pretty successful at, except that he telegraphed the takedowns a little too much because he didn't have the power to like get the respect of Barboza. So he kept ducking under. He got kneed in the face. As for Yusuff, he tried to bum rush him early and knock him out because he had the power. Just come to find out that he didn't have too much in the gas to ultimately finish Barboza, which I think Lerone Murphy, if he mixes both of those game plans where he has a heavy forward game plan to push him against the cage and clinch him up, get him tired, while also getting the respect on the feet, just don't give him any space to kick you. I think he can definitely get this win in the later rounds. It's going to be a dangerous fight for Lerone Murphy, but I think he can definitely pass it with flying colors, because like if you pressure Barboza, you can definitely negate a lot of his offense. He's super fast. He's a dual threat, obviously, with the kicks and the punches. He's got power in both. But when you fatigue him, and again, you have to fatigue him, you cannot just like, I'm going to punch you and then I'm going to move forward a little bit and punch you again. No, you have to clinch him up. You have to make him get tired. I think that's what Lerrone's going to do. He's going to just keep going forward, find the opportunity to clinch with him against the cage, get him exhausted, and then use his striking, use his boxing, use that footwork, getting close, and start unloading on him. So kind of mixing up both of those game plans, like tire him out, find your spots when he's resetting, and unload on the guy, which I do think that if he does that to a T, he will eventually fatigue him to the point where he can land his shots on him cleanly and knock him out. Murphy has he's got good striking, he's got good power. He can definitely knock out Barboza. Just because he hasn't been knocked out at flyweight, I don't think ever really. No, he did fight Giga, and Giga knocked him out. It's just a matter of time. This is, to me, one of the better strikers that Edson has fought in a while. You can say that about Sodiq, but Sodiq, that was a weird version of Sodiq. I don't want to get into that. But Murphy, I think he's got the better boxing. He's going to be able to set up traps, along with, again, fatiguing him to lead to the possible finish in the fourth rounds. I'm going to go with the fourth round knockout. That's my pick. But yeah, those are my predictions for UFC Vegas 92, Barboza versus Murphy. Let me know what you think in the comments below. This layout might change. I'm just trying some new shit, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, Johnny, TigerBomb, I will catch you next week.